I have to record?
No, go ahead,
No.
please.
Okay, okay. Great. Hi, everybody. Sorry for the interruptions. I think welcome to the session on the voice first. My name is Subhajit. I'm a very passionate kind of a learner, and I'm actually kind of having a lot of interest now in the voice bot and the chatbot, and as a conversation user interface as a kind of as a holistic overview. Now, why voice first? Why not voice second or third? Why? Because the voice is actually very, very natural. Voice is natural. Voice is human. Voice is more accessible, and it gives you a human connection. So that's why, since inception of the human civilization, voice is there very much in our life or in our ecosystem. And if you look at it, whenever we are talking about any interaction, the first thing that comes into your mind is the interface. So there are a lot of interface since inceptions we have been using to interact with each other, or the interface that we have been using to interact with the computers or any other devices. But nothing is, I would say, is the best one, because every other interface is guided or limited by certain paradigms or certain controls or certain rules and regulations, or each of the applications or each of the communication method has its own syntax that we have to follow to have a proper interaction. So what is the best interface? So the best interface is to have no interface. But how can I achieve a no interface, or the easiest way of interacting through something which is very pervasive, which is ubiquitous, which can be accessed by anybody across the age or the demography or across the world without any barrier? That is the voice, or that is the speech. Why it is? Because it's the most ancient and the most easiest interface which we have been using since the inception of this world or the human civilization. Puneet, just to check, are you able to hear me?
Yes, Shubhajit.
Okay,
Yes,
great,
yes,
great. I
yes.
just wanted to check. Okay, great. Okay, so the most ancient and the most easiest interface is a speech. So if you think about a kid, or if you think about an infant who is not even able to talk properly or to a fuller sentence, but he is able to utter certain kind of verbal utterances. So they are not fully qualified as a meaningful sentence in the words, but just by uttering those uttering those speeches or uttering those sounds, we are able to apprehend, or we are able to understand his emotions, his demand, his requirements. So now you can understand without even being a proper syntactically proper sentence or the words, still we are able to understand his requirements. That's the power of the voice. That's the power of the speech. So unfortunately, we haven't explored or mined the power or that that pervasiveness of the speech and the voice. And now is the time that we are actually exploring more and more about it and just trying to figure it out if we can imbibe the same kind of natural interactions between the human computer interaction. So if you look at the evolutions, the spoken language has already been there for more than 100,000 years before. And if we think about a print, which is just a kind of almost like a 600 years old, but throughout our whole human civilization, spoken language and speech and everything has been there. So now we know that when before the kind of innovations of the writing, the sages used to kind of pass on all their learning through the voice kind of a learning. They used to remember, they used to recite all those mantras and all those slokas, and they used to pass it on. So voice actually has been taking a very significant part of it in terms of kind of collaborating and in terms of interacting, in terms of kind of explaining what your individual requirements are. So if you look at the kind of evaluations, the chatbot AI assistance has been there for like 7 years, and it is now evolving. Now, I would, in this presentations, what I would do is that I would take you through two distinctive kind of sections. One is the sum of the statistics, or some of the kind of a state analytics part, where you'll get to know that how the voice is becoming more pervasive and more ubiquitous. And in the second part, we would talk about an executions of the about the voice app. And the first important part of the execution is the voice design. So I will talk a little bit about the voice design before we end the session. So I have gathered a couple of kind of very significant data from a survey which has been done by Voicebot.ai. This survey is mainly based on in US because we are yet to get a very substantial data or a very meaningful data from any other kind of a countries or even from India. Although whatever you can see the trend in US, that is almost going to happen in other countries also. So what you see is almost in a, I would say in a broader sense, that's also going to happen even in the other countries, including India. So for example, what Gartner has predicted way back in 2017 is that 30% of the web browsing sessions is going to happen without the screen by 2020, which is this year. And especially who are the main users is that the teenagers who have been using Apple AirPods, Google Home, Amazon Echo, and they have been using everywhere for every occasion, for every use cases, turning the voice interactions into an ubiquitous experience. So if you can think about anything, if you're driving, you're using your voice-based interactions. If you are cooking, you are asking your Alexa to kind of tell you about a recipe. If you are kind of relaxing at your home, you want to learn, you want to hear some music, good music, you are asking Alexa to play some good music or jokes or do some entertainment. So it is becoming in a way that is becoming pervasive and that is becoming a widespread. Why? The one reason is that it is eliminating the need to use your hands and eyes for browsing. So vocal interactions, what happens is that it frees your eyes and hands, because in any other interactions or any other applications, you have to focus. Your hand-eye coordination has to be proper so that you can actually achieve what you're trying to achieve it. But in the case of vocal interactions, your hand and eye coordinations can be used for something else while you are interacting with your voice-based applications. And that's the advantage, that you can actually do a lot of multitasking. So when you are driving, when you're cooking, when you're walking, you're socializing, exercising, or operating any machineries, voice is coming into all these factors and making your job much more easier. Now, the other part of our browsing of our digital content is the search. Search is something that we know is now a very integral part of our digital existence. Anything that we are trying to kind of find it out, everything that we are trying to find it out, we are doing a search, whether it's Google or somewhere else. We are trying to find out the information. So everything for that we are turning into a search engine. But you know that the success of your search result depends on how better you frame the sentence or frame the search context, right? But in the case of voice, you don't have to do it because it is just a syntax tree. You talk in your own manner, in your own language, in your own slang, or in your own accent, and the successful voice bot or voice applications should understand your kind of a requirement, and they would provide you certain kind of a results which are matching to your requirement. So what, if you look at Andrew Wong, he's like quite eminent chief scientist and a data scientist. He's now no more with the Baidu. He's opened his own kind of organizations, OpenAI.org. He has predicted is that no, by the next 5 years, 50% of the all searches are going to be voice and image. So image is going to take a kind of a greater role, and the voice is also going to take a greater role because it helps you without any understanding, without any learning, any syntax or any other kind of mechanism. You'd be able to search the existing, search your record results. So now, how the voice has started way back last like 6 or 7 years, now it is becoming more matured. Now it is moving into phase one to phase two. As any new technology or any new methodology, it goes through a certain kind of a trend. Initially, it started as a kind of a gimmick, or it initially started as more of like doing something different than what people are doing it. But now what is happening is that if you look at the chronology, in 2011, iPhone 4S series came into the existing. 2014, Amazon Echo. 2018, 1 billion devices have access to various voice systems. Why it is? Because it has become a pervasive interactions. It is providing you more capabilities. It is giving you more features. And all the existing features that you have in a graphical user interface, you can harness more power from the voice, from the voice when it is integrated with the voice application, right? So it is now moving from phase one to phase two, where it is actually being tested against the real use cases where it actually helps the users to fulfill certain needs, certain requirements. It is not only about doing some relaxation at home and asking CD, asking Alexa or any other device just to play music. It is going beyond that, and that's why it's called phase two, more maturity. So this is a very interesting survey by PwC way back in 2018. Uh, it it kind of showed us that uh, what people have bought while using the voice. Okay, so this is a very interesting kind of figure in US way back in 2018, where it has been shown that people have used mostly for ordering takeaways, the food, because when you are actually searching for a particular food, writing it or searching it using your keyboard sometimes becomes very difficult or very irritating to an extent. So if you're using your voice, then it becomes much more easier. So that's why you could see there's a lot of food kind of a vendor, like the app-based food vendors, for example, Swiggy or Zomato. They have also introduced the voice interactions into their app because it actually gives them a lot of edge on business. The next one is 31% is the groceries. If you can correlate with a vendor called Big Basket, they have also introduced voice into their applications and into their web and I think the mobile app also, where you can actually speak to that interface, and then you can actually put things into your cart and order it. And if you look at the least one, which is clothing, where it has got a least amount of people who are actually using the voice, because I believe the clothing is something where you need to have a very touch and feel. So it is very important that you should see the size and other matters. So that's why it has got a least percentage. But if you look at at the the future kind of considerations, it has gone from 3% to 22%. So people even are considering that while buying clothing, they might also think about using the voice app. So they are having a trust. So they are having kind of an understanding is that voice can help them even to choose the clothing of their size or all their length and everything. So these are the kind of common use cases that has been kind of very prevalent in US. So if you look at the common use cases where voice has been used, there are certain things like driving, relaxing at home, and doing household chores. These are the first three which have taken the major share in case of voice enablement. Why driving? Because when if you without the voice, if you have to look at the applications or at the device to know the map or to get any other information, so then it becomes very difficult to do a hand-eye coordinations. And while driving, it is very much important to have a hand-eye coordination. So the voice frees the driver to kind of from all these information that he has to get it from a graphical kind of an application. So he will kind of hear all the informations about the traffic information, any road blockages or any other diversions while he's driving and focusing on the drive. Relaxing at home, this is being there for a long time. Like you come back and you want to listen something, you want to hear some jokes or something, then you use that at home. While doing household chores, it has become now, as with our IoT enablement, this has become very pervasive where people are using voice to switch on and switch off the devices on any other applications. And that is becoming very common in US. Cooking is also like people are using the voice to get the recipes or any other information. For example, somebody is cooking and forgot what is to be done next, then they are also asking the voice devices to know about it. So these are the kind of real use cases that are driving the whole voice industry. And if you look at the voice assistants, it says that people are using more in their more they're using voice more in their smartphone rather than in a smart speaker. Although the smart speaker are also kind of getting a good share of the whole market. And if you look at the whole US populations, adult populations, there are like 90.1 million who are using smartphone and who are using voice in the smartphone. So one of the use case that people are trying to kind of figure it out is that people are very hesitant to use the voice command in a public places, right? So that is the one thing that the voice industry is working on, is that, you know, how they can actually resolve this issue. But overall, like we all have our smartphone. We have the Google kind of, you know, search functionality over the voice, and many of us, starting from the kids to the adult to the elderly people, they're all resorting to the voice kind of searches or the voice instructions to kind of, you know, fix a meeting or to book a calendar or to write an email or any other thing that they can think of doing it using the voice. So now this is a kind of a survey which has happened in 2018. Is that among the people who have been using the voice devices, any of the voice devices, that what are the most important qualities of a voice assistant? So what matters to you? What, as a consumer, what matters to you when you talk about the voice assistant? What you want most from the voice assistant? So the maximum number of people says that how well it understands me when I speak. So if you look at this slide very carefully, you can correlate if you have been using any of the form of the voice assistant, whether in your mobile or any other your devices or any other voice speakers, then what is that one thing or what is the two things that actually make your whole day very successful, very happy when you're using a voice assistant? So the maximum number of people say that, you know, how well it understands me when I speak. So when people speak, they have their own nuances, right? Everybody speaks in their own dialect. Not everybody has a neutral accent. I don't have a neutral accent. I have an Indian accent. So the voice needs to understand my Indian accent and accordingly respond to that. If it does not understand the Indian accent, then it would create a lot of frustrations and a lot of kind of, you know, apathy for among the users for the voice assistant. So that's why all those voice specialists, they are kind of trying to figure it out how well they can train the voice bots to understand the nuances, the lang or the slang or the dialect, the own dialect of the different languages. So English has got different kind of variations, and other languages have got different variations. If you talk about Chinese, you have Mandarin and Cantonese. The voice is trying to kind of differentiate between them. And it says that, you know, the consumers are kind of, you know, are very hopeful. They're assertive that voice assistants are improving. And if you see that, you know, there are 30% people who say that the voice assistant has improved slightly. And I think it is also kind of giving an encouragement to the voice industry to think about it, to know where people are lacking pieces. I think there's still an apprehension that people are still not very absolutely kind of, you know, confident is that, you know, the devices will be able to totally understand the basics of the task that he's actually going to ask people. But there is a confidence which is, like, you know, building up. So what now the voice industry is working on? The voice industry is now working on, they are now diving and kind of driving and implementing a voice strategy. They are kind of building a roadmap, a voice-based model that can actually kind of, you know, replace the diminishing the graphical user based kind of applications and gain certain revenue out of it. And in order to do that, there's a lot of interaction that is happening between the voice designers and the conversational designers, how to do that successfully. And as I mentioned that, you know, people are convinced, but there are still certain percentage of people who are not fully convinced. So the industry is trying to kind of foster trust through the consistency. So basically, either you or me, we have been using the same voice applications. We should have a same kind of greater quality all the time, every time that we connect with that the voice app. That kind of trust and kind of reliability that they are going to kind of build in. And they're also kind of trying to prioritize the education and diminish the complexity. So there is a lot of complexity in the beginning, that you have to speak to the voice in certain manner. There are certain things that you have to do it. You have to have a trigger, a kind of a text that you have to talk to the voice, so that voice bot gets kind of activated. So there are a lot of learning that needs to be done, and they are trying to kind of reduce that amount of learning that people need to do before they start using any voice application. uh, they are also trying to kind of understand the boundaries. There are certain things that voice might not be able to kind of might not be able to cover that. So it is very important to understand and let the user know about, through the proper education, is that what is the scope of the voice and what is not the scope of the voice. And there are a lot of privacy concerns. So there are a lot of people who are hesitant to use a voice to do a transactions. Although there are certain voice apps which actually facilitate you to do a transaction using your voice. For example, in Amazon, you have that facility. But people are still not very confident, because they really don't know that what will happen if somebody hacks his kind of applications, uses his same voice, and then does some crime or some scam. So that's kind of the roadmap that the voice industry is working on. So this is all about what I talked about, is the strategy and the speed of the voice, and what has been kind of prevalent in the voice industry, and how users are kind of working into it. But in order to transitioning from phase one to phase two that I mentioned, it is important that we have a proper and successful execution. But before the execution, it is very important that we have the proper voice design to do the execution. So the design means that you have to create a proper end-to-end story mapping of the whole user journey, break them into user persona, and try to figure it out what the different user personas are doing it with the voice bot, and then break it down to all the user stories or the tasks that you need to perform to help the users to fulfill all the kind of activities that they're doing going to do that. So design is very important. Once you have a successful design, it would be very easy to keep going with your voice design application. So before I talk about more about the voice designs, let us understand the fundamentals of it. Now, the first one is that, so while using our voice to access the digital content, we have to remember that it is very different from the graphical user interface. It is very different from the way we are habituated of clicking, touching, swiping, tapping, or kind of selecting from a drop-down box, or any other kind of a graphical, or any other controls that you can see in the graphical user interface. So 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 the voice is absolutely a very, very direct, that where through the sentence, through a sentence, you are asking people you are asking the voice bot to perform certain actions for you. So for example, if an user interface, you have to create a kind of a work item. You go to a page, there you click on the add work item button, and then you fill up all the information, then you click on the save, and then if you haven't filled up all the mandatory information, it will throw you all the warning and the error messages. Then you fill it up, then you successfully get the work item gets saved, and then you get a notification. Try to compare all these activities, all these stepwise activities, with the voice-based command, where you can actually, within a one sentence, you can say, can you please create a work item for preparing the training or the presentation slides for the Tech Tribe Summit on the 6th of September. So in this whole sentence, you have given the name of the work item, you have given a due date, you have given certain other informations, and you have also assigned it to yourself. So this experience is absolutely different from the graphical user interface. The other thing is that a successful voice design does not kind of teach what the designer think is correct. The successful design helps the voice bot to understand what the people in the real world, how they are conversing, how they are using it. So it is not always people would be speaking a very structured sentence. They would be just throwing some words to the voice bot, and they need to understand it. And if the voice bot is not able to understand, they have to provide a very successful and very guided prompt to the user so that they understand it better. So it creates a lot of responsibility on the developers or the conversational design specialist to understand the real interactions or real conversations that happens in the real world, so that they can mimic the same thing in the human computer interaction. The first thing is that we have to build for the users. We have to think about the users. We have to put ourselves into the user's shoes and try to figure it out what that users are looking for it. Now, now, it is very important that we have to set the expectations for the voice bot. So it is said that you can make it a human enough, but don't make it is absolutely truly 100% human, so that we end up over promising, and then in reality it is not able to kind of cater to all the requirements or the varied requirements that you have. Because once you start giving that kind of promise, then people will think that this voice bot is just like a human. It can replace human. It can understand and execute whatever I will tell him or tell it in whatever way I can think of. So understanding and telling people about the expectation, the scope is very important. And the other thing is that whatever the use cases that you can think of, like that, you need to keep it in mind. For example, in this COVID-19, there's a lockdown period. There's a one use case about using the voice technology came into the picture when we are discussing about it in the voice summit. Is that people are people are looking for a voice based kind of some interactions to open and to manage and operate the lift in your building. For example, they don't want to touch the button even with any toothpick or any other thing. They don't want to touch the button in the lift, but they want to operate it. How do they do that? So their thinking is that, is there any voice based applications that can integrate with the lift, and it by listening to what people are asking, that I want to go to 13th floor, I want to go to second floor, I want to go to the basement, I want to go to the on the ground floor, or open the door, close the door, switch on the light, switch off the light, please raise an alarm. So everything that the lift should understand through the integrated voice app and work according to users' requirements. So so nowadays, just because it has become ubiquitous and pervasive, people are thinking anything and everything under the sky to use the voice as an application. So another thing is that, like, we have to think about all the emotions and expectations, because when you're talking to a voice bot, or even when you're talking to other person, your emotion, your tone, your tone gets get very displayed, and it becomes very apparent. But when you are your graphical user interface, it's just a click and the touch and the swipe. Although you might be getting frustrated, but you're still trying to do that. But when you're interacting with the voice, sometimes what happens is that the if the voice is not able to perform properly, you get frustrated. So in your real life chatbot scenario, you could see a lot of I would say a lot of humors, a lot of kind of a fun being added by people when they get frustrated, and there's a lot of sarcasm that is also there. So you have to deal with that. So it is important that when you think about a voice design, you model your program according to the human interactions that you have, and and so be very clear about the capabilities of the about your app, and acknowledge your users that what you can do, what you can't do. So when you think about building for your conversations, when you talk about we talked about building for users, then we are going to talk about the building for conversations. So while you are building your design your conversation, it is very important that you design how actually people talk, and then you create the prompt. So very important that you use the prompt wisely, so that people understand what they have spoken earlier to the voice bot. So that's the kind of a difference between a text chatbot and a voice bot. So now, as I mentioned about the prompt, and also mentioned about the difference between kind of what you are, how you are going to interact with a chatbot, or are you going to interact with a voice bot. One very critical difference of between the chatbot, textual chatbot, and the voice bot is that the textual chatbot is very asynchronous, and whereas the voice bot is very synchronous. So what is the difference? Let me just explain to you a bit more. So when you're using a text chatbot, when you're writing a kind of an instructions or command, and they are also, the bot is also responding to you, you still have the log. You can go back to the previous one, and you can still see that what you have talked to each other. And also, it is not important. You just talk to the chatbot. You just typed it to the chatbot, typed it, and just interacted with the chatbot for a certain period, and then you just go silent. You don't do anything. But that's not the case. And then bot will still be there active. And then again after 5 minutes you ask something, it will again kind of reply you. But in the case of voice bot, that's not the case. This is very synchronous. It is going to happen one after another. So any pause, any silence in between, where you might have designed it in a way so that the voice bot gives more time to the users to speak, and so that the voice bot also understands their requirement. Sometimes the long pause can be a bit kind of frustrating to the users, and the users actually is not aware that whether the voice bot is still there or he's just gone dysfunctional. Okay. So it is very important that you start creating prompt. For example, I said, can you please order, can I order pizza? The voice bot should say that, yes, why not? Then I say that, I want to order thin crust pizza. And there is an odd silence. Okay. So maybe I have designed in such a way that that the voice bot is expecting more information with the thin crust pizza. For example, whether they need any requirement of toppings or any other kind of a drinks along with that. So I would say, hello, are you there? Then it said, okay, what do you want? Can you just repeat? I said, I need the pizza. Okay, then the actual voice bot, it says, okay, I understand that you need a thin crust pizza. Is there anything else? Do you require a particular topping? So this is where you are prompting, you are guiding the users to provide the relevant information so that the bot can make a successful order to the next value stage. In a typical chatbot, you can use a lot of like emojis and images and others. But in a pure voice bot, you can't use any emojis or any other kind of images and any other expression. So the voice bot is the only that the voice is only what makes and breaks any successful interaction. So your tone has to match with the users. If somebody is using a voice app in a bad mood, then you have to be more empathic. Somebody who is in a jovial mood, maybe you can actually crack a joke. So you need to understand the context. You need to understand where the user is coming from. So just because the voice is kind of a hands-free and it's an eyes-free for experience, so the user might be doing a lot of multitasking, right? So not always they would be kind of concentrating on what the voice bot is speaking or is responding. So it's the responsibility of the voice bot to keep that attention, keep that momentum going on. So it is important that you understand that what I need to kind of ask to the users to get his attention back, because he might be doing a lot of multitasking at the same time. The other thing is that we are talking about is that the difference between voice and the visuals. So visuals is something which has got a lot of kind of aids in terms of and explaining to people. But the voice is something where is the tone that matters to the user. So for any visual quality about the voice app is the tone, the prompt, the intent, and the entities. How do you design that? How do you design the kind of a conversations or any other kind of a happy path? So in any conversation, you can have a happy path, you can have a failure path. In terms of happy path, how do you end that happy path? In terms of failure, how do you kind of assure the users that at that point of time the voice bot is not able to answer it, but certainly there'd be somebody who would get back to the users with the proper information. So you have to think about both of these things when you're only talking about the voice model. So after you design and execute, what is more important is that how do you test and tune your voice bot? So it is very important that you keep trying, keep understanding, and keep looking, reflecting how the actual interaction happens. So you can have two people talking to each other, take the same use cases, talking to each other, and try to figure it out. What all different kind of methods and mechanism can it be? How to do a kind of a real world testing? So it is just by asking people to kind of interact on a particular topic or particular idea or particular subject, where in the real cases the human computer or the human voice bot would interact, would happen, and try to figure it out where your design is falling, where your design is lacking short, and try to kind of plug that bridge. So so in summary, so what is the main important couple of practices that you do is that very at the initial stage you set your expectations and don't overpromise. Don't make it too human that people start understanding, people start asking anything and everything, and they get frustrated. One thing that I must tell you from my experience is that people have a higher expectations from the chatbot just because it is being new there. So it is very easy and very kind of, I would say that very fast that people get frustrated. So it is very important that with the prompt, with the proper guidance, you tell people what they can expect from the interaction. The other thing is, the second point is that try to create a persona. The way we create a persona for any activities, like what are the people that can use this voice bot, what are their demographics, what are their kind of a requirements. The requirements of the same voice kind of voice enabled kind of any actions can differ from the different demographics, from the age group. Okay, and then try to figure it out. It is very important that you have a log somewhere and try to figure it out where the kind of you had a more failure kind of scenario. Try to figure it out and see that what you can do to address those failures. The other point that is very important, that the difference between a text chatbot and a voice bot is that in a text chatbot, you can at the very beginning, you can give all the informations in the very beginning. But if you give all those informations for the voice bot in the very beginning, people will completely forget about it and they will not be able to remember what the voice bot has already talked about in the very beginning. If the conversation is very long, maybe for 3-4 minutes, what the voice bot has prompted way back in the beginning of the conversation, people will completely forget it. So very important, any important information that you think that voice bot should provide to the users, that should come as a summary at the end. So for example, when you go to a restaurant, when you give an order, if you see all the waiters and everybody who's taking your order, they repeat all the information. Okay, fine, I understand that you need one thin crust pizza with a cheese topping and 2 glass of Coke. That's it. This is something that you want to order, or is there anything else that you want to do? Then the person will say no. So that is the end of your conversations, where voice bot can now successfully end the conversations by thanking him. So it is very important that you design the voice bot in such a manner that they understand whatever the requirement that people have given to them throughout their discussions. And then it is very important that you design the context first. As I mentioned, is that the same functionality that can be used differently by a different group of people. It can be used in certain manner when the teenagers are using it. It can be used in a certain different manner when the elderly people are using it. So we need to understand and design according to the user persona, and the context they are coming from. Okay. And the most important, last but not least, you need to understand that where the voice fits the most. Voice is ubiquitous, voice is pervasive, everything is fine, but there might be and there is a limitation. So we need to understand the limitations so that we don't overpromise or don't do any false promise. So it is very important to try out the feasibility check, that whether this use case will I be able to deliver the voice kind of services, effectively and efficiently. That is very important for all of us. So with that, I would end the sessions. I think I have taken more time, but these are the couple of references. I just leave the sessions with this kind of with these references. The first one is a Voicebot AI, which kind of provides you a lot of information about your surveys and strategies and the blogs and all kind of thought leadership articles. The second one is obviously the Google Design, Conversation Design kind of a page where you'll get to know more about the conversation design. What are the things that you should keep it in mind, and how do you design, how it is different from any other design, how it is following the material design and all others. And when you think of planning on designing any conversation, you have to map it. So there is a user map. For that, you can actually use a conversation design tool. So these botsociety.io and botmog.com, these are the two design tools that you can you can think of, or you can try it out to plan and apply your all kind of story mapping, that how the conversation will come. It's more like a flow diagram. The next one is basically our open source project. So this is from our organizations. We have actually recently launched a kind of a bot trainer. This is, as of now, this is only supporting the text bot, but this is an open source project. This has been kind of being there in the GitHub. You can go there and you can try it out. And this is based on Rasa. So you can actually, if you have any chatbot which is based on Rasa, you can directly integrate that bot with your bot trainer, and you can actually manage and kind of train your bot and check logs and tweak it or remap all your intent and entities from the bot trainer. Okay. The last one is the Voice Summit. I think if you are interested and enthusiastic about the voice and you want to know more about it, there is a conference which is coming up in October. There are two streams. One is limited few free kind of speeches or talks that you can attend, and there is also full-fledged paid kind of participation. You can do it. But other than that, there are a whole lot of kind of materials, audio and video in YouTube. You can actually go and check that out. Hopefully, I think I just kind of take you through very fast, but hopefully you had certain understanding about the Voicebot estate, and when you think of doing something in the Voicebot, how do you start designing it? With that, I end the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Subhajit. We are ready for the questions. So any questions here, guys?
Hi, this is Mukta. Subhajit, thank you for your presentation. It was very extensive. I had a question. Like, I just wanted to understand that this, what you were talking about, the future of integrating voice in devices and all that. So
Right.
how does it work? There's one separate agency that does that, or like if I'm a TV manufacturer, I will have a department that will do that.
See, I would say that there are a lot of bigger organizations. They have a dedicated team who are actually doing voice integrations with them. But for organizations like we are a kind of a mid kind of a range of organizations where all of us, even in our technical writing group and any other group, we are working together and we are trying to kind of doing some voice integrations with that. So I think anybody can learn about it. For example, if you are interested, you can actually go to Alexa skill kit and you can actually try creating some Alexa skill kit very easily, and you try it out, and then you integrate with any of your application and see how it is working out. For example, we had a hackathon in way back in the last year where we kind of integrated Alexa skill kit with one of our applications, and we try to perform certain actions using our voice command. So, for example, we have a Kanban board. We want to create a card. So we are just giving, we are triggering that Alexa skill kit, and after that we are kind of giving command to create a card, and it is getting created. The same way, you can actually start in-house, start small, and see that how it is kind of fitting into your use cases.
Okay, thank you for your answer and thanks for your question, Mukta. We have one question from Alpana. Is there any free tool to try out?
Free tool for Voicebot or TextBot?
for Voicebot?
For Voicebot, okay. I think Alexa is kind of to an extent is free, but I think I think there are certain limitations when you want to monetize it, but still you can still monetize it to a certain limitations. It is free because we have tried the free version of it. You can use Alexa, or you can use a Dialogflow also. Dialogflow is a great tool and very interactive. You can use Dialogflow for even for your voice interactions. You can use Google thing also, where you can actually create your own skill and integrate with your web or mobile applications. So to an extent, it is all these are free.
Okay, that's great. Any more questions? Okay, Chidambaram has a question. As a technical writer, what will be a major role to play in VUI?
Okay, great, good question. Excellent. I think, see, we are just not a technical writer. We are the enabler. We are the enabler for providing providing relevant information to our users so that they can perform whatever they're supposed to do using our applications or any other services. So you think from that enabling point of view, from that catalyst point of view, you can actually figure it out. Like, for example, you have your own kind of content and communication. You have your own knowledge base on your own help site. But many of times what happens is that just because it is getting larger, bigger and all that, people are kind of turning away from it, because people think that it takes so much of time to do search for particular informations or going through and then getting information. What about you can ask actually your voice bot or your textual chatbot to extract that information from the knowledge base site. This is what we have done. So we already had the knowledge base site, and what we have done is that initially we have integrated, we have used the Dialogflow platform to retrieve information from our knowledge base site and giving it to the users. So, and that actually create a lot of traffic into our applications, because into our web, into our help site, because in our textual chatbot, what we are doing is that somebody is asking, how can I do it? So we are just giving 1 or 2 lines about that functionality, and then we are giving a link to our help pages, right? And so people are actually, if they want to know more about it, they are going to our help site and getting to know more about it. So as I'm saying that voice has become ubiquitous and pervasive, someday or the other, people will start asking for the voice enablement to gather all the information. So you can think about in that one manner. So you can think of writing your content in such a manner which is very friendly to the voice bot. You can think of building a kind of a help bot, which would kind of retrieve information from your health site and provide that to the users. So you